What's something people don't know about modern Israel? Its story began decades before its founding. And it all started with an idea that changed world politics. Theodor Herzl, an Austro-Hungarian journalist, saw firsthand the rise of violent anti-Semitism in Europe, especially during the Dreyfus Affair in France. Convinced that Jews would never be fully accepted, Herzl argued that assimilation was impossible. His solution? The only way forward was for Jews to have a nation of their own. In 1896, Herzl published his plan, Der Judenstaat. The key wasn't just land, it was finding a great power to support the cause. Herzl tried to win over the German emperor and the Ottoman sultan, but both said no. The challenge was clear: without a global backer, the dream was out of reach. But Herzl's strategy set the stage for global politics to change. And the real turning point? It came from across the Atlantic. The most powerful pro-Israel force in America isn't Jewish, it's Christian, and its roots are older than the State of Israel itself. Long before Herzl, American Christian restorationism called for a Jewish return to the Holy Land to fulfill biblical prophecy. In 1844, New York University professor George Bush's book on the topic sold 1 million copies. In 1891, the Blackstone Memorial petitioned the President of the United States to create a Jewish homeland. This idea was woven into America's civil religion by the Puritans, who saw themselves as a new Israel. Today this theology is a political juggernaut. Groups like Christians United for Israel are the largest pro-Israel lobby by membership, with over 7 million activists. They are driven by a belief that a Jewish state controlling biblical lands is necessary for the second coming of Christ. This provides a massive, non-Jewish grassroots army demanding unwavering American support for Israel. With the ideological soil prepared, the next step was to build a political machine. Before 1912, Zionism was a fringe idea in America. Then one man turned it into a political and financial force. Louis Brandeis, a future Supreme Court justice, took charge. He grew the movement's membership tenfold to 200,000 and raised millions, making American Jewry the financial center of world Zionism. This new power was immediately put to use. Brandeis personally lobbied President Wilson to support the 1917 Balfour Declaration, Britain's promise of a Jewish homeland, and even edited the text. This set the stage for 1948. President Truman's State and Defense Departments warned that recognizing Israel would alienate the Arab world and risk oil supplies. But facing intense domestic political pressure from the lobby Brandeis built, and driven by his own Christian Zionist sympathies, Truman recognized Israel just 11 minutes after its founding. The first domino had fallen. But how was this influence protected and expanded? Are you curious how a crisis can spark a movement? Let's break down the origins of a major lobbying force. In October 1953, an Israeli military unit attacked the West Bank village of Kibbutz, resulting in the deaths of 69 Palestinian civilians, most of them women and children. The attack drew worldwide outrage, and even the US government condemned it. Under pressure, the Eisenhower administration considered labeling the main Zionist group as a foreign agent. To respond, Isaiah Kennan, a former Israeli official, founded the American Zionist Committee for Public Affairs in 1954. This new group was structured as an American lobby, funded by US donors, and legally separate from Israel. In 1959, it became known as AIPAC. The memory of the Holocaust is a sacred tragedy, but according to one controversial thesis, it was also turned into a political weapon. Political scientist Norman Finkelstein argues that for 20 years after World War II, the Holocaust was not a central focus in American life. That changed, he says, after the 1967 Arab-Israeli War. When Israel proved its military might and became a key United States strategic asset, American Jewish organizations began to deploy the memory of the Holocaust as an indispensable ideological weapon. Finkelstein's thesis is that this new Holocaust ideology served two purposes. First, it presented the Holocaust as a unique event born from an eternal, irrational hatred of Jews. Second, this narrative was used to deflect any criticism of Israeli policy. Any serious critique of Israel's actions against Palestinians could now be dismissed as just another form of this timeless anti-Semitism, placing the state beyond normal political scrutiny. The 1967 war was the turning point. How did it transform Israel's image in Washington from a liability into an asset? 2 wars in 6 years would forever change America's relationship with Israel, transforming it from a moral cause into a strategic necessity. Israel's stunning victory in the 1967 war established it as the dominant military power in the region. In Washington, policymakers saw a new powerful proxy in the Cold War against the Soviet Union. This led President Johnson to approve the first sales of advanced offensive weapons to Israel, establishing the United States policy of maintaining Israel's qualitative military edge. The 1973 war cemented this dynamic. A surprise attack by Egypt and Syria forced the United States to launch Operation Nickel Grass, a massive airlift of military supplies to save a struggling Israel. In retaliation, Arab nations imposed a crippling oil embargo on the United States, proving the alliance had global economic consequences. After these wars, the pro-Israel network successfully rebranded the relationship. Israel was no longer just a refuge, it was America's strategic asset, a reliable, democratic partner in a volatile region, providing intelligence and countering Soviet influence. This new strategic status unlocked an unprecedented flow of American money. How was that aid structured? U.S. aid to Israel isn't just a check, it's a complex economic system designed to bind two countries together. After the 1973 war, U.S. aid exploded, making Israel the largest recipient of American foreign assistance since World War II. The total is over $260 billion in today's terms, but it's the terms of the aid that are truly unique. For years, Israel received its aid in a lump sum at the start of the year, earning interest on U.S. taxpayer money. More importantly, a unique offshore procurement deal allowed Israel to use about 1/4 of its military aid to fund its own defense industry, a direct U.S. subsidy for a foreign competitor. Today, most aid is foreign military financing, meaning Israel must use it to buy weapons from U.S. companies. This creates a powerful feedback loop. U.S. tax dollars go to Israel, which then places billion-dollar orders with American defense giants, giving the U.S. corporate world a massive stake in keeping the aid flowing. With the money flowing, the next step was to make the alliance permanent. How do you make a political alliance last forever? You take it out of the hands of politicians and embed it in the state itself. The Reagan administration began formally locking in the special relationship. The 1981 Memorandum of Understanding on Strategic Cooperation was the first to officially call Israel a strategic partner. This was followed by the creation of the Joint Political Military Group for High-Level Defense Talks, and the 1987 designation of Israel as a major non-NATO ally, giving it preferential access to United States defense technology. The most powerful mechanism is the 10-year Memorandum of Understanding on Military Aid. First signed in 1999, these agreements commit the United States to long-term, predictable funding, insulating the aid from political debates. The current Memorandum of Understanding pledges $38 billion, ensuring Israel can plan its military procurement decades in advance, deeply integrating it with the United States military-industrial complex. This institutional power perfectly aligned with the goals of a new ideological movement in Washington. The alliance with Israel was locked in. But in the 1990s, a new ideological movement emerged in Washington determined to use that alliance to reshape the world. They were the neoconservatives. Many started as anti-Soviet liberals who grew disillusioned with the Democratic Party. In 1997, they formed the Project for the New American Century, also known as PNAC. Their goal, a Reaganite policy of military strength and moral clarity to ensure American global dominance. Their founding statement was signed by 25 people who would become a who's who of the coming Bush administration: future Vice President Dick Cheney, future Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld, and future Deputy Defense Secretary Paul Wolfowitz. They argued that America was adrift and needed to aggressively challenge regimes hostile to its interests and values. This was not just a statement of principles. They had a detailed military blueprint.
Like, comment, and subscribe.